I don't know if Gabe's listening, but shout out Gabe. If you literally would have picked a time for me to tell one of my friends about this podcast, it would have been like 2 months ago, and like telling him actively, like, "Oh, Catch Me If You Can is like ready to come out. Like, you can listen to that episode soon." And that got eaten by the bears, and
yeah, they're licking their lips just thinking about it.
And then I wasn't on an episode for like 2 months. But if Gabe's still checking these out, shout out Gabe. I don't know if he's listening to this episode, because I think he mostly would listen. He said he'd listen to episodes of movies he'd seen, and kind of like use it as like maybe a watch list. But
it's maybe a tough month for it, but it's on purpose. It's intentionally so.
Unless
next month is going to be better. Next month is going to be nothing but blockbusters.
You literally can't say that's a lie.
So I'm vamping. It's not clear to me if Bree's mic is working or on.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm just
okay.
reeling from that bite of gluten-free cupcake.
I heard it was bad.
Oh, it was terrible.
That's what I say. Apologies to anyone who's gluten-free. When I say gluten-free life or anything is bad, just that cupcake was terrible. If you eat gluten-free food and you have a gluten allergy or something, you probably already know that.
I mean, it was also like a grocery store pre-made cupcake. It wasn't someone's like home-baked gluten-free cupcake or anything like that.
Yeah, it'd be really funny if it was like a friend of yours who you said to listen to this episode.
Yeah, shout out Gabe. He made that gluten-free cupcake. It was complete ass. I can't wait to get a text from him in like 2 years when he listens to this episode.
Well, with that said, and to let him off the hook, let's say, I don't know how to start the podcast. It'll either be that or something along the lines of Welcome to Late to the Movies. My name is Ben Holt, this podcast where my friends and I get to fill in our movie blind spots. We pick a film each week that either I or a guest hadn't seen before and really should have by now. This week, continuing and concluding, Big Tilda Swinter, a.k.a. We Need to Talk About Tilda, a.k.a. We Need to Tilda About Swinton. Suspiria, the 2018 kind of remake, kind of spiritual sequel, sort of unrelated film of the original 1977 Dario Argento film. It's Luca Guadagnino's 2018 Suspiria. Here to talk about it is, I listened to a bit and I was like, this is already taking too long.
All
right. Bree's here.
Hello.
Sam's here.
Marcos.
Ooh.
I might have picked wrong there.
Mother Suspirium's not going to like that.
Uh-oh.
So Sam and Bree are here. It's Big Tilda Swinter. Have you seen anything good recently?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check my letterbox because I actually don't remember the last things I've seen.
Oh,
you saw How to Train Your Dragon for the first time.
I did. How to Train Your Dragon 1. I've only seen 1. And good. it was extremely good.
Yeah.
It was very funny. I was like, I don't know, 45 minutes, maybe even a full hour into this movie, and it was still like him, like, working on flying with the dragon and like working on being able to fight dragons. And I like sat there and did the thing where you to say out loud, like it's almost like the movie equivalent of Jason Bateman looking in the pigeon bag, or the dove bag, whatever it is. Being like, the literal name of the movie is How to Train Your Dragon. And I was sitting there with the stupid thought of like, oh, is this whole movie just him training the dragon? Like, oh yeah, it says it right there in the tin. But no, it was still very entertaining. It was more just in my head. I kind of, the scale of a lot of animated,
no pun intended,
kids movies or whatever, like animated films usually have a higher premise. And like the high premise is, the end game stuff is, like trying to find the dragon's lair and all that other stuff and stuff that they probably build to in the sequels. But like, I don't know. Like I had no problem with it. It just was like the dumbest thing that I had thought about was that sentence. Bree, do you have anything else?
I looked in my letterbox. I saw The Substance, and what a movie of all time that is.
I have not watched The Substance yet, but I am using that as sort of a reward for me getting through the Best Picture nominees that I don't want to watch as much. So we'll see. So I have to watch Emilia Perez first, in other words. And then I will watch The Substance. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've heard there's a lot of butts.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
It is one of the strangest movies that I've ever seen, and I had a great time.
Yeah. So you mentioned this is like really up there immediately for you as like an instant classic kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Like I don't know how many times I'll rewatch the movie because of how weird it is, and like it's one of those like shock once you've seen it, like you don't know if it'll have the same effect. But it was phenomenal.
I'm really looking forward to it. I wish I had seen it when it was in theaters with like a crowd. That I think would have been a fun time.
Oh yeah, I really wish I would have seen it in theaters.
It was a really fun movie for me to be like not watching a screen but in the same room of, because you just hear something like crack or be gross, and then just Bree go, oh my god, what? And then just be like, I don't know what's going on, but I'll want to turn around.
Yeah. Probably different, but maybe a nice pairing with this movie that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. By the
that
sounds
also
of it.
gets kind of visceral and has an interesting ending.
It's very similar in Bad Bitch vibes.
Oh, great. That's great.
I will say I like the substance more, like way more.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely similar in vibes. Like I think I brought up both the substance and Hereditary when comparing it to Suspiria.
The only other thing I watched was The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie's movie from like 2019, which just lives as YouTube shorts. So if you've seen the YouTube shorts on it, I don't need to say everything else about it.
I like Guy Ritchie. I just haven't seen that movie. I'm bad watching movies now. I don't know, life and stuff.
I mean, that movie came out right before the pandemic as well. Very similar.
Oh, that's that one. Okay. Yeah, that's why it's sort of memory hold for me. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't have to. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it, especially because I interrupted the perfect substance to Suspiria transition already. But it was just like the only other movie that I've thought about that I've seen.
It's okay. I watched 2 Best Picture nominees featuring beautiful gowns and a lot of campy behavior and like definitely wicked people. I watched the films Wicked and Conclave about one's about, the next most terrible person in a place, and then the other one is Wicked. Conclave's about choosing a pope.
Ugh.
That's the one where they're like actually showing the white smoke like process, basically.
Yeah. It's you're in the conclave, you're sequestered with a number of like amazing character actors, absolutely like doing end of Space Jam Jordan half court dunks at all times. It's amazing.
They got the Tooch Man in here.
Yeah, you got Tucci doing stuff. Ralph Fiennes putting on an absolute clinic. John Lithgow gets in there doing John Lithgow stuff. He's like 8 feet tall in this movie somehow.
There's a lot of short men on this list. So. Like he's legitimately like 6'5", right? Like he's got.
Yeah, I think he's actually tall. There's an Italian guy who's like his politics suck, but he vapes, and like that would be a cool choice for Pope. I saw it like one Letterboxd review refers to it as like a messy bitch convention. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's fantastic.
So you enjoyed that movie? Because I'm kind of getting intrigued just looking at it, even though I have no.
Oh yeah, no. So it's like perfectly glossy trash. Another Letterboxd review said that it's like it's very much an airport read, but like extremely well and competently made. And
would not have guessed the All Quiet from the Western Front guy was the guy who directed it.
Yes, but it makes a lot more sense that they're giving him the next Ocean's movie after watching this because it's very Soderbergh-y. I'd say it's very well oiled little tension producer. If that makes any sense.
No, that does make sense. I like
it zips.
I was gonna say if I need to watch a movie with tension, I like it to zip and I like it to have good like snappy editing.
Hey, I've seen Suspiria before, but only for the first time a couple months ago when I think it was part of my Halloween watches. I don't know. I watched the original Suspiria, and then a little bit after that, I watched this Suspiria. And then I was like, oh, we should do a whole month on Tilda Swinton, so I have an excuse to talk about this movie again. How about y'all?
I have not seen this one or the original, but I definitely want to watch the original after seeing this one.
I had not seen or even heard of either one, so I was completely blind.
Yeah, that's fun too.
Yeah.
I like mixing it up like that sometimes. I think it can be interesting. What else? So another thing that can be interesting. Who wants to give us a 1-minute plot summary?
I have no idea how to do this, but I guess I'll do it.
Go for it.
Start the clock. Okay. All right. So it's the 70s, and Dakota Johnson is trying to dance, and there's a whole other thing, but we don't have time for that. We're going forward, and she's there to dance. Tilda Swinton's like, yeah, you could dance maybe, and then she's like, I'm gonna dance right now and lead the dance, and she's like, all right, and then she does it, and she actually kills someone. It seems like very violently, but we don't have to worry about that. Keep going, and there's all kind of witch stuff happening, and there's this old man who's trying to help Chloë get Grace Moretz and also find his wife, and he succeeds at neither. And then Dakota Johnson's back, and she's getting better at dancing, but everyone around her just is dying or something bad's happening. And there's a bunch of really messed up visuals, and there's this like super old lady that's got like baby hands coming out of her at the end, and Tilda Swinton's like, ooh guys, I don't like the vibes here. And then she goes, shut up, and she like waves her hand, and half of Tilda Swinton's neck gets blown up. And then Dakota Johnson's like, guys, it was me the whole time. I'm like the mother Suspiria. And she summons some lady who walks around just popping heads, just like pop, pop, pop. And that's basically the whole movie.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I don't think I missed anything. It actually might have been some of my most succinct work.
Yeah, I think it was you missed. Did you mention like the old man version of Tilda Swinton is like very naked, and he just has to watch all this, and then they just let him leave.
Yeah, but they erase his memories of his wife dying in the Holocaust, so there's that. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that guy ends up good or not. I think he just ends up dead.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't even die, does he? He's alive.
No, he just has a seizure from the memory, like erasing, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to remain like a witness to everything, but like
without the
still
memory.
being alive. I don't know.
Yeah. So I should say I mentioned before that this is like kind of a remake, almost like a sequel, pretty much like a spiritual sequel. It's very, very different than the original, but I think they're both, I like them a lot, both. I like them both a lot. Sorry, grammar is hard. But yeah, there's like so many differences that it's not worth being like, well, this part was different, but generally speaking, that it's a very different ending. That is not what happens with the main character. Tilda Swinton doesn't even play one character in the 1977 film. Never mind 3.
Why did they have her play the old man? Do we know?
She's like wanted to.
All right, that's fine.
What do you mean? She's great.
She's great.
Good.
It was so confusing.
It's like good.
It was confusing because I thought there was going to be a twist involving that, and then it was just kind of like distracting. And then it was like, oh no, she's just playing that character. There's no twist where the character in the movie is him or whatever. But yeah, it was still very good, but it was a little distracting.
I was waiting for Madame Blanc to like just pop out and be like, I was the old man the whole time or something like that, which like probably would have been good. But like I was expecting there to be, and at the end it was just like, nah, she just rules. She just played their character.
Funny you should mention it. While they were on the press tour, Tilda Swinton would not admit to playing Dr. Klemperer, the old man. But later, so that's credited as a different, like a made-up name, Lutz Ebersdorf, as Dr. Josef Klemperer. But then she would later say that on the press tour, no one asked her if she was playing that actor who was playing Dr. Klemperer. So then she would have admitted it then. But since no one asked her that, she, in a literal sense, wasn't playing them. She was playing the old man actor who was playing that part.
God.
So that's why. Because you can't get that anywhere else. I also say the factions and the election thing isn't in the first movie either. And it's not set in Berlin. So even though it is about late 70s Germany and Cold War, it is also not as literally and figuratively in the shadow of the Berlin Wall. So it's different. It's much more colorful too. It's kind of a giallo film. It's Argento, but it's not his most giallo-y, you know? But it's still, you know, there's a part in this movie where Dakota Johnson puts on some black gloves and I was like, oh, homage. Because that's a giallo thing. It's an Argento thing, black gloved killers. Anyway, That's enough about that movie. That other movie's great. It doesn't. There's a very funny thing that happens. That movie also has a great score by the prog band Goblin. Great name for a band.
Amazing.
Before there's even, I think, dialogue, or before any characters or even like say what the main character's name is, she gets picked up from the airport. She's in a cab out to the dance studio, and you're like, oh, I wonder what kind of monsters are in this film Suspiria. And the band Goblin in the score just yells witch. It's going like, witch. Look so out for the witches. And you're like, oh, I guess this one's about witches.
Very subtle.
Anyway, again, I mean, a great pairing with Wicked also. Anyway, so of the witch stuff of it all, I know you both really enjoyed Wicked, but this is a more like, I don't know if grounded is the right word, but a little bit more of a earthy, a little bit more visceral version of like witchcraft, I guess.
Yeah.
How did that all play for you? All of the like spooky stuff, all the magic and the hooks.
I really like witch media that does this like batshit imagery where like they do that camera work where it's like very jittery and it like pauses to then start again. There is like American Horror Story, the Coven season did that a lot. But yeah, I loved the visuals. It was a lot more art house than I'm used to in media like this, but I really liked it. It reminded me, I think I had mentioned it earlier, a little bit of Hereditary. Even though it doesn't really get like Coven-y until the end, but yeah, I love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good pull on Hereditary. It is not like the same ending, but like similar imagery.
Right.
For me, I feel like it's a little tough. The witch stuff I was fine. Like I liked the kind of like the politics of the witch stuff. I feel like I am my raging ADD and my like lack of, I'm not good with subtitles. I just like, there's something about me reading that just like my brain doesn't take it. So like I'd rather hear than read like what's going on. So I feel like I kind of got lost early on. Like I still like, I read about it afterwards. I liked it, but like the witch stuff to me while I was watching it, I was just kind of like, what's happening? Like Dakota Johnson's like dancing and this girl downstairs is getting pretzeled. And like Bree was like, oh, it's just kind of like a spell. Like she's doing a spell while dancing and that's like causing this. And I'm like, they keep zooming in on her hands. Like she's actually like forcing the limbs in a different direction. And I think it wasn't until like after that I was kind of figuring out like, oh, that's what's like I get it now. It would be like she's waving a wand and she's doing this, but like for some reason they kept cutting back and forth and I thought it was supposed to be like she was like actually like the movements she was doing weren't so much like a spell being cast, but more like a physical thing, which Bree said about 5 times, but I just did not, it wasn't really landing in my brain because they just kept cutting to like Dakota Johnson's hands and then they cut to like her shoulders getting separated or something. But
yeah.
Fun fact about that I read up at right after, the girl getting fucked up like that is a contortionist, so that was all actually her doing that. She pretzeled herself. That was not any sort of CGI or anything, which is fucking awesome.
That is really cool. Chewing, I'm sorry. Chips.
What type of chips?
Tortilla chips, and it was like more of a chewing intensive chip than I expected. Really good though. So there is a moment there for me the first time I watched this movie where it hasn't really been that intense yet. And I watched the original film first, which is over the top, 70s Italian horror.
Yeah.
And like, but really stylized. And so when that starts happening in this movie, you're like, oh, this is like one of the ways in which it will differentiate itself is like, oh no, this lady breaks so hard she pisses herself. Like it's not, she gets really fucked up and it looks really painful. And then a bunch of people come in with hooks and they carry around on hooks.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's
bad. She's got bad time.
She's got bad time.
You
shouldn't have talked back like that, I guess. You can't leave the coven once you're in the coven unless you want to get danced into a pretzel.
I do wonder. So it seems like in that sequence, we don't need to go over like that whole sequence, but it does kind of seem like she gets lost. You know what I mean? It seems like she kind of knows where she's going, and then walks in a room, and then it's all full of mirrors, and she can't get out because she doesn't know the. I really liked when they like find the other witches like come down and see her, and they carry her away, and one of the witches does like a little like she puts one hand over like her nose, and she kind of like waves her hand to the left, and the door opens. It's like if only Olga knew that little like they didn't tell her the secret like little smell whoosh like and she could have been saved, but
yeah, she didn't stick with the program long enough to learn that one.
Yeah. There was another. So we should probably get into Tom York because I know we only got like 45 minutes, and I want to make sure we touch on Tom York. Tom York of Radiohead does the score.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the score. I think the music was a strength of the movie for sure. I find the times that Tom York just comes in singing kind of weird. Like it felt like maybe they told him, like maybe they're like, Tom, we'd love if you just sang a few bars here, you know, like just came in, give us that Tom York jam. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll see what I could do. To me, every time he started singing, I didn't really like, I was just like, why? Like, who let Randy Newman like get on the mic? Like, I don't know. I found it distracting every time he started singing. But that was just me. Maybe it's just me. I haven't seen anybody else complain about that from what I looked at. But
yeah, I mean, it worked for me.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and he's a good artist. I don't hate Radiohead. I don't dislike Tom York. I just like to me, it almost just seemed like it would be like one of those things where like if there was a parody about this movie, someone would just be coming on being like, the witches, they're cooking something up. Like it just like was like that level of like why are we singing? But I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it was interesting. It's not like the most obvious way that you would score this movie.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
Also, can we talk briefly about the mom, Dakota Johnson's mom?
Yes, we can, because it's on the theme of motherhood. Right?
Yes, and there's the theme of motherhood. So her mom's on like her deathbed, looking real bad. And I don't believe it's explicitly said that she was the mom early on, unless I missed it. But like you're kind of just assuming because it's like her talking about her daughters, and then like it fades to Dakota Johnson. So like you can either put two and two together that that's either her daughter or that's, you know, her later in life or something. But the time period seems the same. And you know, Dakota Johnson does like a lot of the rest of the movie, and like they kind of paying back to her here and there. But then, like at the end, Dakota Johnson seems to be some kind of like primordial, you know, witch mother, and they're like, oh, before that reveal, they're like, you got to denounce your mom, and she's like, all right, I denounce my mom, and then it cuts to the lady in the bed, and she's like, bleh, and she dies, and then it cuts back to Dakota Johnson. She's like, just kidding, I'm an omnipotent force, you dumb bitch, and then just like, I was like, okay, what happened to that mom? Like,
I think so. I tried looking at the wiki, and I couldn't super find an answer, but like just based off of context clues from the movie and other witch media that I've seen, I don't think she was born as Mother Suspirium. I think with all of this, she has taken the host of Susie. Because that's what the whole thing was supposed to be. Like she was supposed to, like Marcos was supposed to take her body. Like that was a possession Sabbath that was supposed to be happening. But I think that at some point in the movie, she was already like not exactly possessed because she still obviously was herself. But it's like she was aware that she was now Suspiria, however you pronounce her name, I forgot.
Suspirium.
Suspirium, yeah. So I think that's what that is.
All right.
And I think that's part of why Blanc was like, wait, the vibes are off.
Gotcha. Before Blanc's like the vibes are off, and Marcos is like, I'm gonna hit you with a little of this.
Yeah. Didn't finish the job though. She's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's that. It's like either it was all a ploy or at some point in her life or during the film, Susie is vesseled by Mother Suspirium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that sequence to me says like Marcos was kind of like she wasn't taking it in the right direction. She's supposed to be serving Mother Suspirium, but she's sort of like elevating herself a little bit too much, getting a little big for her britches. So Suspirium had to come and do this whole ploy to trick her.
Not very motherly of you.
Well, you got to punish your kids sometimes.
Yep. Sometimes you blow up you kill them and blow up all of her friends.
Yeah. You take care of the people who were loyal to you. If they wanted to die, you're like, all right, sure. And the people who voted against you, they're like, yeah, well, your head's gone.
What I absolutely love,
my buddy here is going to explode your head.
It just summons death to like. Well, that's another thing I loved about that scene. So, Death kisses Marcos and she dies. And then they start going around with some kisses, and it's like, okay, kiss of death, that makes sense. And then you find out they don't need to do that. They can just kind of point and their heads explode. So I'm like, what was the point of kissing them then? Because I thought that was supposed to be symbolic, and then it's just like, nah, fuck you.
He didn't want to kiss everybody. That's his prerogative.
That's so funny. But yeah, my favorite parts of that sequence was the fact that they show the cleanup after. Like, I feel like horror movies don't ever do that, and like it wasn't supposed to be funny, but I found it so fucking funny when they went back to that. Like everything was back to normal. It's like, oh shit, we gotta clean up all this blood. Like,
yeah,
so good.
I don't know if it's is or isn't supposed to play as funny in the movie, but I think it's funny to Luca Guadagnino. Like I think he thinks that's funny and wanted that part to be in the movie.
Yeah, it's definitely funny.
And they like find like, oh, she's not dead. She's just chilling. We gotta do that head reattachment magic.
But then they say that she left the company, so I have no idea what her fate actually is.
Yeah.
She needs a recovery time. She got barely any neck.
She's not going to be able to do like any kind of dance instruction for at least a couple months, you have to assume.
Yeah. She's training with John Cleese about how to have barely a neck.
Yep.
That's
good. I was going to do a nearly headless Nick thing too.
That's a 2025 Harry Potter reference response of just
boo.
Yep.
Yeah. By mentioning John Cleese, you managed to not just get a J.K. Rowling shout out, but also a John Cleese shout out.
Another piece of shit.
Yeah.
Who would have thought history wouldn't look upon well on the Pythons? These irreverent, old, boomerish British white dudes.
It's not great.
Nah.
Not ideal. Back to Suspiria. I think speaking of old guys, so there's we haven't really talked about the plot too much, and that's like not a thing we do anyway. But as much as it is, I guess it's mostly about like Dakota Johnson on the inside and the old guy on the outside, or sort of your perspectives, more or less. And yeah. It's interesting, considering it turns out she's actually not even like a person by the end of the movie.
Yeah. She's just her own thing.
Yeah, she's just like a David S. Pumpkin situation.
David S. Pumpkin is just slapping butts, but it's blowing up heads. They're flicking the lights, but instead of like the music, it's just doing that.
Yeah. But what's his deal? What is David his own thing?
As Mother Marcos just desperately asking what David is Pumpkin says.
Yeah.
Who do you follow?
Yeah, that's the look that they've chosen for a lot of the stuff in this. It really pops because it's so muted and so like winter colored that anytime there's like, well, now we're gonna meet Marcos, and she's sort of like a Jabba the Hutt type with wraparound shades.
Jabba the Hutt wraparound shade. She's got little baby hands trying to claw out of her. It's very. It looks fresh out of a Hideo Kojima like boss.
Yeah, real gross.
Yeah, totally. That's a good point. I don't know, it's good. I just like that.
Yeah, no, I never felt comfortable watching this movie, so mission accomplished there for sure.
It is off-putting a lot of times. But yeah, old guy gets in there. He finds like a big hook, and he goes away. Mia Goth is a pretty big part of this movie, actually. Is sort of like the de facto best friend of Dakota Johnson's character. They do some snooping. They find some weird stuff going on. I don't know. A lot of it, like if you look back, you're like, okay. So if Dakota Johnson was sort of like omnipotent, at what point does she start becoming all powerful?
Yeah.
And I guess it's sort of like my interpretation. It's like in there, but she's got to like let it out kind of. And by the time she makes it to that ritual, she's like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. But before that,
she's the only person that
really...
walks into a room with a girl getting disemboweled, like 10 people dancing all around and a bunch of people chanting, and then a wraparound glasses Jabba the Hutt, and she goes, I know exactly what is going on here.
Yeah. She's doing the like, well, yeah, I don't know what I expected. This is exactly what it said was going to be here today. Yeah. It's good. And I have often thought of this somewhat jokingly as the only period piece Dakota Johnson works in.
That's so funny.
Because she has like, I feel like she is, I guess Anya Taylor-Joy is normally what people go to for this, but she's actually been in a lot of period pieces. But like, okay, Dakota Johnson has a face that's seen an iPhone. Like she doesn't work in the past. Not my joke, but yeah, I think she works in this one because it turns out she's some sort of like she doesn't fit in this time period because she's older than Christianity, it turns out. Yeah, she's extremely not correct in the late 70s Berlin.
No, but like Tilda Swinton is. Tilda Swinton looks like she actually grew up in the 70s.
You can put Tilda Swinton anywhere, including space, and it would just work.
I like to think that it's like one of the first times you see Madame Blanc, she like absolutely just rips a fat cloud like immediately. Like she's just like she's got a single cigarette and she rips, I don't know, like a whole lung full of smoke right in the air. And I immediately said to Bree, I was like, there's no way that was in the script. Like they definitely just cut to her. And she's like, and they're like, wait, we're gonna start rolling? It's like, we've been rolling. Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. It's like the Italian Pope hopeful that vapes all the time in Conclave. He's just like ripping fat cotton, and it's great.
Yeah, I love that for sure.
It's great. Yeah. So it is big Tilda Swinter. She's great in this movie. I like all three of her roles, but really it's Blanc as the big one, and I guess also the doctor. She plays Marcos also, but it's one scene. Yeah. But it's one scene. Definitely. Oh God, I wonder how just like the grand total of hours in a makeup chair she spent in for this movie, though, between the old guy and that Marcos scene.
Yeah, like do you like get those people like Christmas gifts after that? Because like if it's the same people every day, like
you got pretty tight.
That's got to be, what was the Johnny Depp one where it was like he was like it was something absolutely stupid, like he had to do like 7 hours a day on each side for something, or maybe that was Jim Carrey for The Grinch. I can't remember, but like there was some role that he had that I can't remember that they were like, it's ridiculous how much like he's in makeup every day because he's the star of this movie. But
yeah, and you getting there like 4 a.m. or whatever. The Grinch would make sense. I think it's always interesting when people can act through a lot of prosthetics and makeup and still have like a good performance. I recently saw Nosferatu, and Bill Skarsgård is, I guess, our Lon Chaney or Lon Chaney Jr. And he gets pretty interesting performances out of through whatever prosthetics he's wearing in a number of roles at this point in his career. And yeah, I think it's interesting that that old man performance is like actually pretty good in this movie by Tilda Swinton. You know, grain of salt. I'm no acting expert, but I think I don't know. I like it. I feel for that guy. He goes through some shit.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, he loses his wife to the Holocaust, so not great. But his like, or like the. I will say, like, I didn't know Tilda Swinton was the guy. Like I didn't know that ahead of time. So like I went in and I'm like sitting there going, this isn't. This is age makeup, right? Like it started like swelling, and it was like, this is age makeup, right? This isn't like this doesn't look like an old man. And then it became, I think, Tilda Swinton's old man. And then it was like, all right, what's the big reveal on this old man? I don't trust poor Sarah. She's talking to this old man, and she's gonna find out it's Tilda Swinton this whole time. And then it's just like, nah, Tilda Swinton's just throwing up threes all day. Like she doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I completely expected it to be some big reveal, like witchcraft reveal that she was him all the entire time, and it's kind of nuts that it wasn't.
That's an interesting direction the movie could have gone in. Like I said in the original film, the Susie character is just a normal person who then gets away at the end, doesn't sort of become the whole thing. So, I mean, it's not like this isn't operating in a like, maybe that could happen. That could definitely happen in the context of what's possible in this world. So, sure. There's one moment where he's tricked into like someone's doing a minor illusion and he sees his wife and he follows her and they're like walking around and then like he sort of comes to realizes she's not actually there and you realize he's outside the school and you're like, oh no. And then there's a moment where that lady, the like assistant level lady, sort of just like runs at him screaming, and it's like, I hate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that glamour, because like either it was a complete illusion to lure him there, or someone like shape shifted to look like her, like that made me think even more that there was going to be a reveal for that man at the end, because it's like, okay, so we can see that someone can do that. So like when is this coming in? And then it didn't.
Yeah, that played as more illusion for me, but like you said, like who knows, man? There's no real limits on what can happen.
Yeah,
within
exactly.
the magic that people are doing, right? So I don't know. Apparently, a lot of them knew that Marcos looked like that, and they were just like, "Well, that's my president."
Yeah.
Oh, because she was supposed to inhabit Susie's body, so they knew that her time was almost up in that body.
They were voting for her because they were like, "We gotta get her out of this baby Jabba the Hutt body."
Listen, Blanc, you look fine. Like,
yeah.
We've well known this lady for a while. Like she's not at her best, but like we gotta help her out a little bit.
She can't even see anymore. She's got these wraparound Oakley Bono glasses. Like we gotta.
Oh god, that character should have been played by Bono. They would have saved so much as sunglasses.
Tom York simply wouldn't allow it.
I like the idea that they're somehow enemies.
Yeah, like they're extremely similar. For like, if you take the entire population of Earth and you say how similar Tom York and Bono, they're probably in the 99th percentile for each other. But they're like, can't fucking stand that guy.
I mean, Irish people don't like British people, so sure.
No, Irish people don't like British people. I don't. Did Tom York throw plastic in the ocean? Probably. I don't know.
He's also fairly environmentally conscious, seemingly, but
yeah, that would make sense.
Who knows?
They both seem extremely liberal and progressive, but I don't know. Maybe Tom York might hate the Vegas. What is it?
The Vegas sphere thing.
The Vegas sphere. He hates the sphere. Why did that? This is going back to the movie. Why did that lady stab herself in the neck? They kept cutting.
No fucking idea. I still can't figure that one out.
They kept cutting to this girl. I don't want this to just sound like a red letter media like Prometheus. Like, why did that lady stab herself in the neck?
Why not?
Why did Susie decide to be a mother the whole time? But yeah, why? Yeah, like she was troubled. You could tell when Olga was getting fucked up. She was like, "Oh, don't like this." Like she knew probably what was happening, or she could empathize or like feel. Like you could. They kept cutting to her like crying, also not feeling great about that. They cut to Olga crying, and she was also crying. Like
apparently that character is or was one of the matrons, so like one of the three mothers. But I still don't see how that connects to her killing herself.
yeah,
Like
they had a vote.
But the vote was like earlier.
Yeah.
Like the vote was in the beginning-ish of the movie. She kills herself like what, halfway or something in it?
Yeah. Maybe she just really hated whatever they were eating for dinner. They're like, oh man, if I have to eat mashed potatoes one more time, that's it. And then she looked at the spread and was like, I guess that's it, guys. I'm sorry, I'm going out.
Yeah, I mean, she just sees the writing on the wall, like, hey, this isn't breaking in the way I hoped. I'm gonna get out before we get to that ending.
Oh, I get my head popped, so
yeah. Oh, what'd you think of the
probably come back anyway?
Yeah. What'd you think of the Voke piece? It's all about like, oh, they're getting ready to do Voke, and then they do Voke. They don't get all the way through it because of Mia Goth's leg, but
and frankly, how dare Susie for not going along with that? Like, could have kept going, but she really ruined the vibes by
arguably should have
making Sarah realize that her leg had been extremely violently broken just like minutes before.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen Volk, so I didn't know anything.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
I think it actually is like a type of dance. Not one that I've seen. Volk translates to people. Sense of people as in a crowd. Never mind. Thought it was a name.
Like Volkswagen, right?
Yeah.
No, true. People
Maybe
wagon.
it's about Volkswagen.
That's what it translates to.
Yeah.
Volks and Volkswagen means of/for the common people.
Oh, fine. But yeah. I mean, I think the dance is a lot. I struggle with art.
Oh, sure.
Like, I said before, I was like the interpretive dance and stuff, and like more abstract art pieces. I don't think like I'm not the kind of person that's like, oh, this is stupid. I'm just like, I'm too dumb to figure out this art. Like I'm an accountant that likes like very obvious satire and parody comedy. Like this is trying to figure out like what, like I'm the guy that watched How to Train Your Dragon and got halfway through and was like, oh, he's training the dragon. Okay, so this is gonna fly wildly over my head.
Lord.
We don't really get into like deep themes and stuff, but I don't know. It's Cold War. There's motherhood stuff going on.
I will say,
power.
I could be taking this the wrong way. I was talking with Bree about this yesterday. I got to the end of this, and when they it wasn't like they had been layering like Holocaust and war stuff the whole time. So I don't want to say like, oh, they just flipped this and hamstrung it out of nowhere. But like throwing all the Holocaust stuff in at the end, like in like kind of being like, oh, like you're Jewish, your wife was killed in a concentration camp, and the girls that died were probably Jewish, or at least she like mentioned them all together. Like maybe I misinterpreted that, but it seemed like that, and it was like layering all this as that, and like the theme of Germany, especially post-war Germany, feeling the shame and the guilt. And then like her specifically saying like it's not on the guy here to feel that shame and guilt when he's gone through the loss that he has and he's tried to help the people that he's helped. I don't know if this movie needed that, but like it's one of those things. It's like, far be it for me if this guy had a plan. It's another one that I said like I just kind of wanted explained to me by like someone involved, because like a lot of the things that I read about it, people were just kind of like they didn't do enough here to justify including this, like, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's on a theme of like abuse of power.
Yeah,
that obviously conjures that theoretically, but like I don't know if they needed to Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can tell he's a Jewish seeming guy, and he would have been alive in the 40s in Germany.
Yep. And his wife's name's like Anka Mayer or something. Like,
yeah. And he doesn't know really what happened to his wife or where she is. So
yeah, they keep bleeding those like, oh, the
hammer with it.
The RAF boys are being terrorists. You know, like they just got all that war stuff in the background. So like,
yeah,
I get it. It was one of those things like, watch this movie. I knew ahead of time this movie like wasn't a movie made for me. Like I'm not a big horror guy. I'm not a big tension guy. I don't really like body horror. I don't read subtitles.
Films.
Yeah, I don't read subtitles well.
Speaking of dance films, one of the reviews I saw for this called it Step Up 5 the Fucking, and I haven't stopped thinking about it.
It's really good. You look different, Channing Tatum.
Yeah. What would the Step Up to joke be? Step up to hell? I don't know. Step up to the streets. What's the pun? What's the pun? Step up to the allegory for something.
There's gotta be a witchy word that rhymes with streets, but I can't.
I don't know
Meeps?
either.
Nailed it. Step up to the meeps.
Yeah, that's perfect. Continue your point.
I mean, that was most of my point. It was just basically like I knew ahead of time this movie wasn't for me. It was just like when I'm lost in the sauce with all this stuff, I'm just kind of being like, all right, I gotta find, like, it's almost like you're going down a stream and I'm like, I gotta grab onto something. And like one of the more obvious, like other the motherhood stuff and the suffering, abuse of power, like that's all there. But like when they start like very openly talking about Holocaust stuff, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, is this what we're doing? Like it just kind of felt negative to me. But I don't know Luca's like history with any of this, like if or the writers like history with any of this. So I don't have any ties. Obviously I am not Jewish. I have no ties to the Holocaust. So like it's far be it for me to be like this movie didn't deserve that subject matter. But I would have liked it either to go a little harder on it or to leave it a little bit more in between the lines, to start openly talking to, in the epilogue, openly talking to the guy saying that his wife died in the Holocaust and saying like Germany's shame is not on you or whatever. I was just kind of like, okay. But
yeah,
that wasn't, that's the epilogue. It's not the end of the movie. So like, it just was kind of like one of those weird things. It's like, why did we need this? Why did we need this old man getting tapped on the head by Dakota Johnson? But
yeah, that's a good point. It would be interesting to know what they think that was specifically communicating that hadn't already been said, Yeah. It's another scene with Tilda playing the old guy, playing the guy.
Yep.
Playing the old guy, playing the old guy.
Dude being dude disguised as another dude.
There's a chance in an alternate sliding doors timeline. This movie had been optioned by Luca Guadagnino, who convinced Dario Argento to let him remake it. And he originally offered it to David Gordon Green, who also co-wrote a script and I guess was going to co-write and direct a version of this movie back in the late 2000s. I think it would have been bad.
Yeah. I was wondering, like they said they might make a sequel. I don't know if that.
That's definitely not happening.
Okay.
I think they said it was too much of a bomb to make a sequel, but that was originally a plan. Yeah.
Guadagnino said a sequel was impossible as it was a disaster at the box office.
Too fast, too Suspirious.
Oh, that's so good.
That's right there the whole time.
We did it.
Nailed it. Yeah.
We haven't mentioned Chloë Grace Moretz. Oh
yeah.
She's in this movie.
That's kind of it, man. Like she's in it in the beginning. She does a good job. She doesn't do a lot.
It's weird how little she's in this movie, and it's not like a equivalent of like opening scene of Scream kind of thing, because she's also in the end.
Yep. Yeah,
just sort of also, she's like also there.
Do you
also granted the sweet release of death.
You think there was a period of time for her when she was filming that scene? Like she was just like, why am I here? I'm barely in this movie. Like what?
She's made worse movies.
Oh,
she should have had that thought in, I don't know.
How dare you talk about Neighbors 2 that way?
Yeah, that was gonna be my pick too. I was like, let's see, what can we do?
She was in that Dark Shadows remake that I didn't hate, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
We saw that in theaters because my mom loves the original Dark Shadows, and I remember walking out of there just being like, "Boy, that was a Tim Burton movie." Tim Burton just definitely did that movie. I'm desperately trying to find a live action Chloë Grace Moretz movie in the last 5 years that I've even heard of, and I'm having trouble. She's going like full voice actor now.
I mean, makes sense. It's probably easier.
Yeah. Chloë Grace Moretz got dragged into a Max Landis war movie.
Oh God.
Yeah, Shadow in the Cloud. It's an action horror film directed by Roseanne Liang and screenplay from Max Landis.
Wait, hold on a minute.
Yep. Holding on.
It follows a female flight officer in a top secret mission in the Pacific during the Second World War, who, after boarding a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress, encounters an evil gremlin.
Evil gremlin?
An evil gremlin. It's a movie about a gremlin, but not the cute one.
What to say? Is it in the gremlin like multiverse?
So roughly attacked by an evil gremlin. Yeah, no.
Shadow in the Cloud auto completes on Google. Shadow in the Cloud 2. Shadow in the Cloud. Why did the gremlin want the baby?
We'll find out in Shadow of the Colossus too. Or Colossus, Jesus Cloud.
Nope. We got it.
Is that what Shadow of the Colossus is
Shadow in the Cloud X Shadow of the Colossus bonus pod.
There's also very funny pictures of her fighting like the gremlin guy in the mocap suit. Like those never get old, but like
oh my God.
Oh yikes. Oh, this isn't great.
Don't worry, they're having a good time.
Yikes. All right. Well, we can't keep any of this. We gotta bring this thing in for a landing. Unlike
look out, there's a gremlin.
Grace Moretz's plane in Shadow of the Cloud.
There was like we were watching subtitles. Well, obviously I think you have to regardless, but we had like all the subtitles on, and there was just like distant laughing just came up every like 5 minutes, and I'm like, are we gonna talk about the laughing? Like there's just every scene just has distant laughing. They never talked about it. I assume it's just those two girls that were like banging in their room.
Yeah, probably.
Like, they were there for a scene where they came out like, you all right? Yeah, rub some dirt on it. We're gonna go back to the room. And then they showed them like giddily running back to the room, slapping butt or something. And then they just cut back to like, the girls being sad. It was a weird scene.
Okay, fair enough. All right. On a scale of 0.5 to 5, on any scale of your choosing aside from stars, what would you give Luca Guadagnino's 2018 film Suspiria?
I have to go first.
I'm trying to think of a scale.
I don't wanna.
Oh, I've got a scale.
I want
4 out of 5 exploding heads.
I should have just saved distant laughing. It was right there the whole time, and I just talked my way out of it. Right at the end. I don't know, guys. I feel bad. This wasn't a movie for me. Everyone else seemed to like this movie more than me, but I gotta be true to myself. I can't give it a better grade than Predator. So I'm gonna go 2.5. Mother Marcos force powers. She just kind of threw her arm down there and gave him a little chap.
Little chap. Yeah, I think going into this, we figured this wasn't one for you anyway. I will give it a 4.5 out of 5 inedible gluten-free cupcakes out of 5.
You gotta keep that too.
Haha. I like this movie a lot. Luca Guadagnino made 2 films in 2024. Challengers is better than this movie, and it has all the stuff about this movie that I think you liked, and none of the body horror.
Hey, there's
so
that.
I would say watch that. Which is to say, it has an amazing and bizarrely snubbed for an Oscar nomination score. What I might be my favorite Trent Reznor Atticus Ross score. Has a lot of weird stuff going on.
That's super funny because I said that in the movie. I was like, I love Tom York, but I would have expected this to be more of like a Trent Reznor joint.
Yep. Nope. You sure did.
Yep. Yeah, I would say watch Challengers. It's great.
Luca Guadagnino also thought that. He got done with his movie. He was like, man, I love Tom, but I should have called Trent Reznor for this.
Yeah. It's about tennis. It's also not really about tennis. It's mostly about sex.
It's like every Kevin Costner baseball movie. It's not really about baseball.
Yeah. It's a metaphor. The question we've been asking this month on Big Tilda Swinter is, if you were to cast a film about your own life, what character would Tilda Swinton play?
Oh, God. That's a great question.
Pretty happy with it.
It simply can't be my mom, so I don't know. My mom has opposite of Tilda Swinton energy, and I don't even mean that in a bad way. Just they're extremely different people. Like, if we're doing a movie and my mom's in it, I think I just have to get Julia Louis-Dreyfus to play her. Like, there's no other choice. So
that's a solid pick, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Bree?
I'm trying to think. I cannot think of anyone that could work for.
Trying to think of like the person that has like the most impact on my life that's just a lot without being loud, because that's kind of what you're going for. Ben, do you have an answer while we vamp?
I've tried to get a different answer every time, so I'll say, like, in the beginning of Scream 2, how it's like the events, like the characters are watching a fictional portrayal of the events of the first film.
Yep.
And that's why, like, technically Heather Graham has a Scream 2 credit. So I would say in this, it would be Tilda Swinton playing the gremlin in Shadow in the Clouds while I in universe watch the film Shadow in the Cloud.
You walked all the way down there.
Ugh.
I am going to take more than 2 minutes, so you have to go over your heart out.
No. You walked.
So funny.
You walked all the way down there, and now I have to keep all the Shadow in the Cloud stuff. I don't even remember if that's the name of the film.
I'd say this is going to be a weird pull because I don't think this man had a lot of like influence on my life, but he's just always somebody that I think back to because he desperately tried me to be more creative, and I just kind of didn't. But my English 101 teacher in college was like an older gentleman with white hair that wore leather jackets to class, and like, I don't know if he ripped cigs outside, but he had that energy. I just love to see Tilda Swinton take a crack at that guy, so I'm gonna go with that guy.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Honestly, it's really funny you say that because I was about to say one of my English teachers too. I had an English teacher in 8th grade my 10th grade that absolutely has Tilda Swinton energy. That woman hated every single person except for me because I was the only one that actually tried in her class.
I'm gonna backup answer. I'm gonna have Tilda Swinton play Ben's mom.
Why?
In a movie called "There's Something Wrong About Ben."
What?
You're so many words off.
We have to talk about. I want it to be like we have to talk about Benjamin, and then it be like you just screaming that your name's not Benjamin the whole time.
Oh man, my actual name is the correct amount of syllables for that title too.
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't rhyme with Kevin, kinda. So I'm out.
That's true. I guess a real answer if I want to edit the first one out, so we never have to talk about that movie. She's kind of so. I have a friend, Kyle. His mom is Scottish. Tilda Swinton's from England. But she's sort of like a blonde lady around the same age and always forgets she's met me like 6 times. So
that feels like that's good energy there.
Yeah. I think
have
that's
you had
about
past
correct.
answers that were good, like also? Like I feel like I'm missing out on some hot content, which I could just listen to the episodes. But
other people have mentioned her as a teacher that they could like find sort of similar to Tilda Swinton in their life as well. Yeah, it's been good. It's been a good month. It's been a good Swinter.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of these movies yet, and I always feel a little weird if I'm like, oh, I might end up watching We Need to Talk About Kevin, and stuff like that. But I might just skip to the end and listen to all the Swinton takes.
There you go. There's some good stuff in there too. There's good stuff. So yeah, next month. I
assume we've talked about it on other. Yeah.
I've told people, I don't think I've actually said it on the podcast, that I am for sure doing Cat's Hog Month in February.
Cat's Hog Month.
I usually edit this part out. So yeah, it's going to be Cat's Hog Month. It's going to be a whole month of cats. I hope y'all are ready. That's all I got to say about that. By which I mean, I do hope you guys are cool to do an episode on cats, because it's not like people are exactly champing at the milk bowl to join this one.
I fucking love cats. So. The movie is not good. It's fun.
It's not what you want.
But I love the stage play. Yeah, exactly. But I love the stage play, and Sam hasn't seen the stage play yet, so we're gonna watch that also, and then maybe go from that angle. For I
hope
podcast.
No one else likes Skimble Shanks, the Railway Cat, because I'll do 90 minutes on Skimble Shanks.
It's a pretty bad movie, but I'm excited to talk about it. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining today, Sam and Bree.
Thank you.
And I hope the rest of your Swinter goes tildingly.
I hope you said that every time.
I didn't. It just came to me. Big ups to Mother Suspirium for that one. You can find our stuff on Linktree, linktr.ee/LinkToMovies. And we'll catch you next month to see Sir Ian McKellen go meow, meow, meow.
Can't wait.